Hey there, podcast lovers. Looking for a fresh take on the world? Tune into Nikki's World, where we dive into everything hitting the headlines and chat about just what's on our minds. No filters, just real talk. Whether you're sipping your morning coffee or unwinding after a long day, Nikki's World is your go-to for genuine commentary on the real world. Subscribe now if you want to hear the real deal on what's going on. Join the conversation on Nikki's World, where every episode feels like catching up with an old friend. Don't miss out.
What's up, y'all? Let's do this.
Hi guys, welcome to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host, and today, guys, we gotta talk about the conservative movement attacking Pam Bondi for what she said about free speech and hate speech. We gotta talk about that and so much more. But before we go any further, guys, if you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, y'all, can y'all please consider donating a cup of coffee for me? Because for the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Cumberland Farms, guys, you guys help keep this podcast show alive. You guys help me curate more stories, more topics like this to talk about. I do accept Bitcoin donations. I am on Ko-fi, guys. If you guys want to support, sponsor, donate, and tip to Nikki's World. If you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, y'all, please hit that like, subscribe, please give me a review. Good, bad, and the ugly. Also, guys, I do have a bunch of affiliate links. First off is Minds.com. Minds.com is a Connecticut-based social media platform. They are an awesome alternative to Facebook. So if you guys value your right to freedom of speech like I do, guys, and you guys want to say stuff without fear of being blocked, suspended, or deplatformed, guys, well then, head on over to Minds.com. Also, guys, I do have the most awesome, and I mean the most awesome affiliate link with Byrna.com. Byrna.com is a less lethal self-defense company, guys. They make their Byrna LE, Byrna SD, TCR, Mission 4, and their newest, guys, their compact launcher. So if you guys value your right to the Second Amendment, your right to self-defense, but you guys want to do it in a less lethal manner, well then, guys, head on over to my friends at Byrna.com. Also, guys, I do have the most awesome, and I mean the most awesome affiliate link with North Shore Medical Supply. North Shore Medical Supply, they make their top of the line North Shore Megamax diaper, their North Shore Supreme pull-up, and their Turner boosters, guys. So if you know someone out there who needs to wear adult diapers, who needs to be put in adult diapers like I do, guys, well then, head on over to my friends at North Shore Medical Supply, and they will make sure, guys, that they are padded up like always. And before we get this show on the road, literally, guys, if you guys love this episode and any of my other episodes on Nikki's World, seriously, y'all, can y'all please consider sharing this across all the social media platforms that are out there today? Wow, man, that's a mouthful. That was a mouthful. And yes, guys, I am diapered up as always in my North Shore Mega Max diapers with my Eterna boosters, and I also have my onesies from Little Comforts as well. So I'm diapered up, I'm padded up as always. So let's get on with the show, shall we? So just a couple of days ago, and I believe this has happened like a couple of days ago, our Attorney General Pam Bondi had an interview where she said something like to the effect that there's free speech and there's hate speech. Both of them are protected under the Constitution, but what's not protected under the Constitution is hate speech that incites political violence, that incites criminal activity, that incites terrorism. That's not protected under the Constitution. But what the problem is that you have a bunch of conservatives out there, including Matt Walsh, including Steven Crowder, calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with the conservative movement. Okay? The conservative movement is like this. Yeah, we're all for free speech, including hate speech. But then why aren't you agreeing with the Attorney General when she's saying that, look, there is hate speech that is inciting violence towards conservatives, towards the MAGA movement, Republicans, okay? Or anyone who they think that, oh, you're this and this and this, okay? Why are we not attacking that? But you're attacking Attorney General Pam Bondi over what she said, yeah, there's hate speech, there's free speech. Both are protected by the Constitution. But what's not protected is hate speech that incites violence. And this is the problem the conservative movement has right now. The conservative movement in this country is hanging by one word, and they're not looking at the broader picture here. And this is the problem I see. Matt Walsh, I'm gonna say this to your fucking face. You're a fucking asshole and you're a fucking idiot. You got blinders and you're not seeing the whole damn picture. You're seeing one word like this and you're not looking the whole context. And the whole context is this, ladies and gentlemen, is that Pam Bondi is saying, yes, there is hate speech, there is free speech. Those are protected by the Constitution, okay? But what's not protected by the Constitution is hate speech that incites political terrorism, political violence, and criminal activity. That's not protected by the Constitution. And it seems what conservatives are not getting is the word incite, okay? The fact that the conservative movement thinks that, oh yeah, hate speech protected. Hate speech is protected. But then the problem is, where's the people who are supposed to be up at arms over hate speech that Westboro Baptist Church does, or hate speech that the trans cult does all the time to the right and threatens violence? Where's that? The fact is, guys, people are taking this so out of context that It is nauseating to correct the living fucking daylights out of the conservative movement. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I like the conservative movement, but I don't espouse their shit. This is why I'm an independent, which means I don't espouse either left or right. I'm a free thinker. That means I use common sense, critical thinking, logic, and reasoning. And the fact that Matt Walsh doesn't even use those things makes me want to go up to his face and literally slap some common sense into him. Literally. The fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, hate speech that incites political violence is not protected under the Constitution. Now, I'm going to ask every conservative, Republican, Libertarian, and Independent this question. Show me where in the Constitution and show me where under the United States Code that says that hate speech is protected. Show me. I want you to cite the actual U.S. code, like Title 14 or Title 18. Show me. Show me. Because I want to know. Because here's the problem. Many of the conservatives, they want to like basically go to war with the left. And I wholeheartedly agree. They're going to war. But the way they're doing this, you're going to create enemies within our own movement. Okay? You're going to create enemies that's going to hurt our movement in the fucking long run. And it's going to do more damage than ever. All right? It really is. But the fact of the matter is here, ladies and gentlemen, is that Matt Walsh, who's calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired, I'm going to say like this. He's a fucking asshole. He's a fucking idiot. He's taking things out of proportion and not reading the whole context. And as a Gen Xer, I sit there and I go like this. Man, you people are so fucking dumb. You people are so fucking stupid. You people are fucking retarded. The fact that you took what Pam Bondi said and literally ran down the street without fucking looking at the whole story and the whole context, I sit there and I go like this. You fucking people are more stupider than the fucking left. Whatever you are. You people are more fucking stupid and asinine and fucking retarded. Yeah, I said those words. I will never say it on social media because social media will probably block, suspend, and deplatform me, but I say it on my podcast show. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, hate speech that incites political violence, terrorism, and acts of criminal activity is not protected speech. Okay? That's what Pam Bondi was trying to say. But you people seem to ignore that shit. Because you want to say, oh, hate speech is protected, along with free speech and free speech. But then you ignore the part of the violent part or the inciting violence, inciting like harm, inciting terrorism. Yeah, that's the problem with the conservative movement. They're all ginned up on emotion right now because Charlie Kirk got assassinated, okay? I need to say this. Check your emotions. Check yourself before you fucking wreck yourself, okay? Check yourself right now. Because the problem is right here is like this. The conservative movement wants to protect free speech and hate speech. but then the left is inciting hate speech with political violence. How does the conservative movement and the right justify that? Explain that to me while I'm in my diaper and onesie and having a cup of coffee. Explain that to me. How can the right justify the less violent political rhetoric along with inciting violence towards the right? How can the right justify the less violent political rhetoric towards the right? I want to know. I want to know, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know. I want to know, how can Matt Walsh justify the left's hatred towards the right along with the left calling for political violence against the right? How can he wake up every day and fucking justify that bullshit? How can he? No one on the right is calling bullshit on this, because everyone on the right now is calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fucking fired, because they don't even think these things through. They don't even use what skills that I always say on my podcast show: logic, reasoning, common sense, and critical thinking. It's because they don't think these things through. They're running on emotion because their conservative pundit Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and they're not stopping and thinking and reasoning and basically taking it all in and going, yeah, Pam Bondi is right. There's free speech, there's hate speech, but hate speech that incites violence is not protected. Gee, maybe someone should slap Matt Walsh upside the head like his parents should have done and instill some common sense into his head. You know? Gee! But you know what? I go on X and I see every fucking idiot calling for Pam Bondi to be fired without even thinking this whole thing through. You people are as bad as leftists who call for canceling people over things they said 10 years ago. I'm sorry to say this. You guys are as horrible as the left, okay? The people who are on X calling for Pam Bondi to be fired are as bad as the leftists who call to cancel people on the right for shit they said 10 years ago. That's how bad it is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, oh my fucking God. Really? I'm sorry to say this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say this, okay? The conservative movement today, probably most of them are millennials, don't even have an ounce of like brain cell. They don't. People in my generation, which is the Gen X generation, we still have like what? Common sense, reasoning, logic, and critical thinking. So we don't just hang by every word. We literally just read verbatim or listen to what they're actually saying instead of just hanging by one little word and then blowing it out of like context. That's what Matt Walsh, Steven Crowder, and a bunch of conservatives have been doing on X. Taking one word and then boom, blowing it out of proportion. Yeah. While people like me are having to sit there, look at this shit, and say, what the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck, man? They're blowing things out of context without actually looking at the whole thing and looking at why she's saying it instead of like just like them blowing it, like take one word, boom, blow it out. But instead, people like me, we're looking at this, we watched the whole thing, and we're sitting there and we watched her response. We're saying, yes, there is hate speech, there is free speech. As long as you cross that line into political violence, terrorism, or threatening to harm someone over their viewpoints, beliefs, opinions, or what they believe, espouse, and whatever, as long as you don't cross that line into violence, you're okay to say whatever you want. Even Dan Bongino, I watched his podcast show before he became deputy director of the FBI. He said it many times on the podcast show that said like this: we will defend your right to say whatever you want, no matter how hateful it is. But the second you cross that line into political violence, there's no going back. There's no defending that shit. There is no way, no human being on the face of the earth will defend that shit. That's when you face legal, civil, and social consequences for it. Yeah. But then the conservative movement, what Matt Walsh and Stephen Crowder are saying that, oh no, there's no hate speech. Dan Bondi should be fired while they're clutching their damn pearls. Yeah. This is why people like me, who grew up in the 1980s and 90s, we grew up in an era with common sense, logic, reasoning, and critical thinking skills. Come on, conservatives. Come on, people on the right, Republicans and libertarians and independents. Start using those skills that you grew up in. Okay, come on, Gen Xers. Start using that skill of like what? Logic, reasoning, critical thinking, and common sense. Start using that, ladies and gentlemen. Start using that, because I'm going to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. You need to start using these skills, okay? You need to. Because I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this clearly. People right now, because their emotions are running high over the death of Charlie Kirk, or, that they're mourning his loss. Okay, they're mourning their loss. But at the same time, they're dealing with leftists who are cheering, gloating, okay, who deserve to be canceled, who deserve to be shunned, who deserve to be run out. And many of them who have been calling for violence against the right deserve to be arrested, deserve to be prosecuted, deserve to be thrown in prison. We need to, as they say, take a step back before we dive off this cliff. Because people like Matt Walsh, people like Steven Crowder, I'm telling you guys, you're going to divide the conservative movement to the point that you're giving the other side ammunition to create a schism. Okay? Come on. Let's think these things through here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's think these things through. What Pam Bondi has said, ladies and gentlemen, and I have a copy of the tweet, okay? And I do have a copy, and I'm going to bring it up right now. Okay? She said like this, ladies and gentlemen. Under Title 18 USC Section 875 Paragraph C, it is a federal crime to transmit any communication containing any threat to kidnap any person or any threat to injure the person of another. Basically, is like this. What Pam Bondi said was this: there's hate speech, there's free speech. And if hate speech involves political violence, that's a federal crime. But the left, but not the left, but the conservative movement, these things through. They just ran head on to a wall and not think about this shit. Yeah, really. They ran head first and not think about this. They really did. And it amazes me. Yeah. And then what she said in this tweet, and she said this: free speech protects ideas, debate, even dissent, but does not and will never protect violence. This is the problem of the conservative movement. The conservative movement hangs by words, just like the right. But what they both lack, both the left and the right, is critical thinking, logic, reasoning, and common sense. They lack those four skills, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna say this clear as day. They lack these four skills. They do. And what Attorney General Pam Bondi said, and I agree with her, and you people on the conservative want to butcher me and try to go after me for it, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Your free speech right to do. Okay? But I'm going to say like this. What she said is there's free speech, there's hate speech. Okay? Hate speech that incites violence is not protected by the Constitution. But the conservative movement thinks that, oh, there's free speech and hate speech. But then they don't see the violence part behind the corner. You see what I mean? So the problem here is people like Matt Walsh, you need to think a little harder here, homeboy. You need to think a little harder, okay? And then here's this article that I'm going to tell you. Okay, let me get the headline. From the reclaimthenet.org, Pam Bondi says government will go after hate speech, drawing First Amendment criticism. Okay, Bondi's rhetoric turns a legal non-category into a political weapon. So says the conservative and the free speech movement. Problem here is people on the conservative and the right have blown this out of context, blown this so out of proportion that it's fucking funny. Right here, I'll read you the paragraph. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has stirred controversy with a recent comment seeming to suggest that certain forms of speech could fall outside the First Amendment protection, a stance that is fundamentally incompatible with the Constitution. Gee, conservatives, show me where in the United States Constitution that says that hate speech that incites violence is protected under the Constitution. Show me, ladies and gentlemen. I don't dare you, because the conservative movement can't seem to get that through their thick head. They can't. And then this one from InfoWars, okay? I'm going to read you the headline from this. All right? This one right here. AG Bondi declares war on hate speech post Charlie Kirk assassination. Here's the headline from InfoWars, all right? One one of my great personal frustrations having to cover the filthy water politics and punditry for years at this point is that so precious few actors in this arena seem to sincerely believe in anything. Here's the problem. Conservatives think that hate speech and free speech are protected. Rightly so. But then they don't see the fact that political violence is that results in hate speech is not protected. And they don't see that. And right here from WorldNet Daily, Pam Bondi, DOJ has eyes on company that turned away customers over Kirk poster. Okay? And here's the headline. Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Monday on Fox News Hannity that the Department of Justice is looking into Office Depot after a Michigan employee allegedly refused to print a poster for a vigil honoring Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. This is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of why we're at war with each other. We're at war. Is because people on the left want to boycott and cancel people on the right. But people on the right want people on the left to be boycotted, canceled, and face accountability and consequences. Yeah. And this one from Louder with Crowder, guys, I'm going to have to say this. Pam Bondi slams chart like that. I'll read you the headline. Pam Bondi slanders Charlie Kirk's legacy by adopting the leftist. You know? I'm like, are you out of your damn mind? And then here, this one from the Blaze. Free speech defenders clash with Bondi's hate speech crackdown. Keep America free. Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion on this, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my opinion. There is hate speech, there is free speech. Both are protected. And I will defend your right to say anything, whether it's hateful or not. I'll defend your right. But the second, and I say second, that you incite political violence, terrorism, and threaten someone over what they say, believe, and view, you're not protected by the Constitution. That protection goes right out the damn window. That literally does. And I like this from right here, from the Blaze. A censorship law that would be used against conservatives before it's used against the left. Conservatives and other free speech advocates criticize Attorney General Pam Bondi for declaring that the Department of Justice will go after those spreading hate speech. Good. I agree with that. We should be going after hate speech that incites political violence. Hate speech that incites harm over what a person says, believes, and views. People should be thrown in jail and held accountable. But conservatives have taken that and fucking blown that out of context. They've taken it so badly and blown it out of context that, oh my God, you fucking people need to learn to think, okay? Use those skills in life. Yes, use it. And this one right here from Post Millennial, Pam Bondi suggests DOJ would target Americans for hate speech, okay? And then she says there's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there's no place, especially now, after what happened to Charlie in our society. Okay? Yes, I like that. And here's the first two paragraphs of this article. Attorney General Pam Bondi spoke to Kate Miller on her new podcast about free speech in the wake of Charlie Kirk assassination. Kirk was shot on campus of the Utah Valley University where he was holding an open debate session with students. He was targeted from the rooftop and shot in the neck. The attack follows years of deplatforming of conservatives at universities, rhetoric that equates conservatives to Nazis and fascists, and rampant anti-Semitism that erupted after the October 7 Hamas attacks on Israel. Bondi has been vocal against that, but in speaking to Miller, she indicated that the federal government should target so-called hate speech. Okay? And then I like what she said like this in this next paragraph. These universities, said Miller, are complicit in allowing conservatives to be harassed on campus. And what happens when you allow the university to harass conservatives and don't expel or take action is what happened last week. Here's the thing. People on the left have been calling people on the right Nazis and fascists and all that, have been threatening violence that has been going unchecked since the last 4 years of like the Brandon administration. But people on the conservative movement are going, well, that's hate speech, but we're still going to defend them. You're going to defend them even though they threaten to harm you? I don't know, people. I don't know, man. People in the conservative movement, y'all lost your mind here. Y'all lost your mind. Y'all lost your fucking freaking mind here. Y'all really do. Y'all really do. Y'all lost your fucking freaking mind. The fact that you're willing to defend free speech and hate speech, and even hate speech that incites political violence against you, I don't know, man. If I'm an alien race and I'm reading this shit, I'm sitting there going like this. What the fuck is wrong with these earthlings? What the fuck is wrong with these people from the third rock from the sun? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Yeah. The people who incite political violence, they should be facing criminal arrest, prosecution, and be thrown in jail. They should. But the people on the right who are saying that, oh no, that's their free speech, that even though it's hateful, even though they say violent shit, this ranks hypocrisy. This ranks stupidity on a scale that I sit there and I go like this. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? So people in the conservative movement say like, yeah, there's hate speech and free speech, both are protected, but then how do they justify the left's hate speech towards the right who basically say political violent rhetoric towards you? How do you justify that? How do you? As I'm sitting here having my cup of coffee, you know what I mean, and podcasting to y'all in my diaper and onesie, how do you justify that shit? Really? Mm-hmm. How do you justify that? How do you justify that shit? Because to me, ladies and gentlemen, there's no justification for this. I'm one of those people, okay, who say this. Yes, I agree there's free speech. Yes, there is hate speech. And I will defend your constitutional right to say that. But I will not defend you if you say hate speech that incites political violence, terrorism, that threatens to harm someone over their viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs, or what they espouse, what they believe. I will not defend that. I will not. But I will defend your right to say whatever you want. But I will not defend your right to harm someone over what they said, believe, and espouse. I'll not defend that. I'll just say, Nope, y'all. This is where I leave the room and say, y'all on your own on this shit. Yeah, y'all on your own. The fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, the fact is, the conservative movement blew what Pam Bondi said out of proportion and took it out of context without actually reading what she was trying to say. What she was trying to say is like this: there is free speech, there is hate speech. Hate speech that incites violence is not protected by the Constitution. And the conservative movement, when they heard those two things, didn't understand what the last sentence that she was trying to say. Seems to me, ladies and gentlemen, the conservative movement needs to like pump the brakes, needs to stop and think these things through. They need to stop, they need to think, and they need to understand that you can't do this shit. You can't pull this shit. You can't literally say shit and then all of a sudden have the other side threaten to harm your ass. You can't. You can't. I never understand how the conservative movement can be okay with both hate speech and free speech, but then not, and then be okay with the left saying hate speech that wants to threaten people on the right. I don't know. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about you. I don't know, but to me, it just makes me go like this and go, the conservative movement needs to think these things through. They need to think a little harder. They blew one word so out of proportion that it now has to take President Trump to justify what Pam Bondi has said. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, literally, as I'm here podcasting to y'all here in my diaper, in my onesie, I'm sitting here going, some days our conservative movements needs cooler heads. Some days our conservative movement needs Gen Xers to come in and basically explain what people say, because some people just take it so out of context. Okay? People like Matt Walsh just need to slap some common sense into his head, man. Just slap some common sense and do what some normal parents would do. Slap some common sense upside the head and make them go like this. Ow, what'd you hit me for? When you said shit like this and you don't think about it, that's what you get. Yeah. But to me, I'm gonna just say it like this. The conservative movement blew this out of proportion. Didn't think this thing through. Didn't understand the whole context of what she was saying. And the context is this. She's saying that there's hate speech, there's free speech. Both are protected by the Constitution. What's not protected by the Constitution is hate speech that incites violence. Okay? Hate speech that incites political violence, harm, that threatens and intimidates someone, that's not protected by the Constitution. That can get you into legal, criminal, civil, and social problems down the road. Yeah, that's what gets you in trouble. But the fact that the left, not the left, the right wants to defend hate speech and free speech and not understand the whole context of what Pam Bondi was saying, I don't know if you should be defending that. I don't know if you should be defending that, ladies and gentlemen. I do not know. I do not know. And I'm gonna say this. I know I podcast here a lot because I know on social media, especially on X and all the alternative social media platforms, I know my opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs are never going to be heard, never going to be recognized because I'm not in the right social class or the political class. I go like this. Fuck that shit. Yeah, that's why I have my own podcast show because I can say my own thing and people can listen whether they want to or not. But I'm gonna say and like I say like on the show, you're free to agree and disagree. Okay, you're free to agree and disagree whatever I say. You're free to challenge whatever I say. That's your First Amendment right. Okay? And I'm gonna defend that. Okay? I'm gonna defend your right to say whatever you want, whether it's hateful or bigoted and all that. But I will not defend you if you say hateful stuff that threatens me. I won't defend that. I'll report your ass to law enforcement in less than 2 seconds. Yeah, I literally will. But I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll say this. You have a constitutional right to say whatever you want. Okay? Matt Walsh has a right to say whatever he wants. Whether he's an idiot, that's up to people. And including me. That's including me. I could say he's an idiot. That's it. But I will say this. People under right need to stop, think, and check yourself. Okay? You really do. Because I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. There's hate speech, there's free speech. Both of those are protected by the Constitution. You can say whatever you want, whether it's hateful or not. But if you incite political violence, and if you incite terrorism due to what you said, you're not protected by the Constitution. You're not protected in this country. Okay? I'm sorry to say that. You're not protected. You never will. But the fact that people on the right took one word from Pam Bondi and fucking blew it out of context, just like how the left would normally do, just makes me sit there and think and go at this. What the effing fuck is wrong with these people? What the effing fuck is wrong? These people who are now going on X, and all these liberal pundits calling for Pam Bondi to be fired, saying that DOJ is going to go after people for hate speech. Yes, she is. She's going after people for hate speech because what they said incited violence. Yeah. So can we basically stop, listen? You know, there's that song in the 70s, like, I think they're gonna stop, listen, what's that sound? Yeah. Can we do that? Can we do that, guys? Because the problem is, guys, is this. The left is gonna say hateful things about people on the right. And some of the hateful things are gonna be like what? Inciting violence? That's not protected. That's not. But the problem is, you people on the right taking this out of context, blew it out of proportion. Yeah, you blew it so far out of proportion, guys. I don't even know what you guys are thinking anymore. I don't know what the fuck are you people saying. I don't. But to me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. And I'm going to say this. You people need to stop. Use your skills of life. Critical thinking, common sense, logic, and reasoning. It's that simple. And I'm going to say this on my podcast show, on Nikki's World right here, that there is hate speech, there is free speech. Both are protected by the United States Constitution. What's not protected by the United States Constitution is hate speech that incites violence. And if you can't get that through your thick-headed skull, maybe someone should knock some common sense into you, people. Maybe they should. Maybe they should. Yeah, maybe they should. Really. They should knock some common sense into you people so you can see what they're saying and all this shit. Yeah, maybe they should. Maybe they should, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, really. 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 It really is, man. But stuff like this from our side, especially from conservative pundits like Matt Walsh and Steven Crowder, sometimes you people need to think harder. You really do. You really do, guys. You really, really do. You really do, man. You really do. But man, yeah, that was a good show, ladies and gentlemen. That was a good show. That was raw. That was emotional. Wanted to get my opinion out, basically, because I know like I said earlier, like on social media, I don't get to be able to express my opinion, viewpoints, and beliefs because it gets drowned out by everyone else, and everyone else gets to be heard except for me. So this is why I get the podcast and blog, because I get to be able to say my shit and be able to speak my mind, even though I get drowned out and I don't get heard on social media. I don't. All right. So, anyway, guys, I thank you for listening to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host. I will see y'all soon. Bye for now. You just listened to an episode of Nikki's World. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.